All right, everyone, how's it going? Hope you are well. Welcome back to the Brawn Brains podcast. Today, we are extremely excited to have HAIDER MEHDI joining us. HAIDER, how's it going, man? How are you?
Good. Yeah, not bad at all. Thank you. How are you boys?
Yeah, very good, thank you. How's life in Dubai?
Yeah, good. Yeah, can't complain to be honest.
I can imagine not.
A
No,
little
no.
bit
How's
better than the UK.
how's the gyms across there? Because obviously we've seen a lot of footage from a lot of people, and I'm curious to know the gyms really live up to the hype.
Um, yes and no. They do in terms of, I guess, the equipment and the size and the kind of stature of the gyms. They are all pretty kind of substantial and they've got good kit, but it's hard to find one that's complete.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
I've heard
So
that.
they've either got good kit with some completely like odd missing bits where you're like, how come they've not got that or how come they've not got this?
Mhm.
And then they're either really kitted out or they've just got zero atmosphere. So it's kind of like hard
Yeah.
to find a gym that you're just really, really happy with and you can't pick any faults on.
So I mostly train that now then.
Predominantly, we've been training at a gym called Train Strength and Fitness.
Mhm.
So it's a good gym. It's got pretty much everything in it, and there's no kind of egos or any kind of crap that you get in some of the others as well.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
the main one, Binus, is it's a good gym, and I trained there a lot last year. But it's one of those gyms that you kind of you can't really just get on with what you want to do without having a
Yeah.
conversation
Yeah,
with someone.
heard that. Yeah,
Yeah, I saw Mike Thurston. Do you know Mike Thurston?
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, 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 of course.
And he was walking into train, and I was like, "What are you doing here?" And he was like, "Oh, I just want to train legs. I can't train in Binus without being pestered."
Mhm.
Yeah, I've seen that. He said on one of his
Yeah.
YouTube videos. I remember him saying that. Yeah, but
Yeah,
is that the same with you as well? Do you find you get pestered often?
yeah. I mean, I'm obviously not as popular as Mike, but you just know people, don't you? And
Yeah.
people just want to talk to you and stuff. So it's yeah, it can get like that, I guess. So if you want to just get in and get out, then it's tough to do that sometimes in places like that. And they put the prices up at Banus as well, and it's just a little bit like for what you're getting out of it, it's not really worth it anymore for me. So
Know the type, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, to begin with, I know obviously you haven't done like too much sort of content sort of outside Instagram. I know you've been listening to sort of the other podcasts that you've done, and I know that kind of with Hannah and Charlie, you kind of already sort of got into this whole thing. So we'll keep it decently brief. But for those listening who may not sort of know, give us sort of your background and what you do and stuff like that.
okay, cool. So I'm an online coach. I was a personal trainer before that. It was around 11 years ago that I actually started PTing.
Mm.
I am a men's physique competitor. Been competing for about 6 years now, with a year off in between that. So 5 years, I guess, solidly.
Mhm.
Um, I am I'm married, got 2 kids, and I am living in Dubai at the minute. So that's a little bit of a quick overview, I guess.
Yeah. Pretty,
Yeah,
pretty, pretty cool stuff. Obviously, sort of as I just said, it's sort of touched on the personal side of things a lot, on kind of some of the previous podcasts you've done with Hannah and with Charlie. So we were kind of quite keen to sort of delve into some of sort of the training side of things because obviously I know when you did the podcast with Charlie a couple of months ago, this was when you were sort of more in between coaches and starting to lean towards Hyacinth. And
yeah.
now I believe you've kind of settled on that. So I was wondering, sort of how does that kind of compare to the previous approaches? What does your training sort of look like now in comparison, and how's the whole sort of new coach thing going?
Yeah. So the training aspect of things with Hyacinth, it's more body part splits now. So it's not your push pull legs or anything like I was doing.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's not a complete bro split. It's not, I don't have an actual arm day. So arms is tagged onto, well, triceps are tagged onto push and biceps tagged onto pull. But even though I say push and pull, it's not push and pull. So I'm still in that kind of mode of talking
Yeah.
about it because for so long. But so chest and triceps and back and biceps, I guess. Sounds so bro, doesn't it? That does. The volume is a touch higher, but the most of the exercises and the reps and the sets, I guess it's kind of still a load and a back off style, like I was doing on predominantly the heavy stuff. And then as we get more into the isolation work, the reps do go up a little bit, but the sets not so much. But then the volume's higher overall because there's just more exercises and more to do. So I guess it's just more kind of more hammer. You're just hammering your muscle a little bit more than I was before. So I'm doing a 2 day on, 1 day off split, which I was doing anyway. So it's not that much different really when you really look into it. It's really not that much different, apart from because what I came back off, I started off doing a push-pull leg split, and then I went into a push, pull, rest, delta and arms leg day split. So then from going to that to doing, now I do chest and triceps, back and biceps, rest, shoulders, legs, rest. It's really not that much different.
Do you prefer that? Is it more enjoyable, or do you think it's just worth it for the sake of making a difference to your own physique?
Yeah, I think it's the second one, to be honest. I do enjoy it, but I just enjoy training. When I look back on doing push-pull legs and the push-pull legs and delts and arms, I love that too. So it's just a case of having to do what I need to do now to kind of bring up the areas that I feel like I need bringing up, and that's just giving them a little bit more attention and a little bit more volume. Kind of focusing on certain movements that I feel like I connect with a little bit more.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's interesting then. It's interesting to hear that it's not quite as different as I was expecting to hear it, because I know you sort of touched on the idea of kind of, you know, moving coaches to almost kind of see what you can learn from someone else, because obviously, you know, you've been with Jordan for such a prolonged period of time. What do you feel you've kind of learned off Hyacinth, as it were? Obviously, you know, still being, you know, fairly new with him, but do you feel there's anything?
He does things a lot different, to be honest.
Okay.
So the way, like, now I'm transitioning into prep. I'm doing HIIT cardio.
Okay.
Which nobody does anymore. Not for preps anyway, because everybody's too fearful of losing muscle and everything else. And like I said, the volume's a lot higher throughout the session, which again is something that is very kind of feared upon nowadays. It's like you can only do what you can recover from. And I feel like now I'm anecdotally doing something, it's like, well, maybe you don't really have to worry about the volume that you're doing and what you can recover from, because I mean, obviously everybody's going to have different recovery capabilities. So I can't just give this as a blanket statement, but it seems like everybody else is giving that as a blanket statement on the other side of things, where they're saying you can't recover from this and you won't recover from that, and you can't do that movement in that exercise and then do all that volume afterwards, and you'll be crippled and you'll never grow and you'll never recover, etc. So I do feel like maybe that's a little bit overhyped, because I mean, I wouldn't say I've got any kind of supreme genetics or recovery capabilities, but I've managed to grow, and I'm now prepping and looking as though I'm maintaining my strength and everything else. So I feel like the industry gets hold of something by the bigger names and the bigger people in the industry, and then it gets spread out across social media, and then that's then took upon as a rule, and now we've got to do that, and that's all we can do. So now Hyacinth's obviously not afraid to try to that's obviously something that he believes in, is adding a bit more volume and doing things a bit different,
right?
And because I obviously chose to work with Hyacinth, I have to then follow that protocol. So at the beginning I was like, wow, this is a little bit high volume, I don't know how I'm going to get on with this, and I was smashed for the first kind of week to 10 days. But then our bodies are very, very, very efficient at dealing with stimulus and stuff like that. So probably in my thoughts, I would think that when people would start it, they'll be feeling like that straight away, but they wouldn't give it enough time after that. They'd be like, oh, no, I can't do that. I'm falling asleep after I've trained every day now. Do you know what I mean? I physically can't do anything after, or I've got DOMs for days, but then after you give it a little bit more time and you give it a little bit more of a run, then you start to find out that your body's actually kind of dealing with it okay. And it was just that transitional period that you had to kind of get by, and then you're okay. So that's one thing that was very different. And like I said, something that I had to kind of get my head around and just have faith in. And it ended up being okay. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, now I'm dieting and we're bringing calories down. Being with Jordan for so long, he would always pull food and pull carbs from away from the workout as much as we could, really. So, I mean, and now that is still kind of the case. So it's not so much that it's completely different, but I was always of the notion of, when you're in the deficit and when you're dieting, that you should try and prioritize your recovery more than anything else. So obviously you want some carbs pre-workout, and then you want them post and maybe post. So you've got enough fuel to train hard, and you can maintain your lifts and you can stay strong, and then you've got carbs to recover in 2 or 3 meals afterwards.
I think that makes plenty of sense.
And that's going to kind of preserve your tissue. But then the way Hyacinth does it is it's completely the opposite. So I've got high carbs in meal 1, high carbs in meal 2, and then very, very low in post-workout. And then now we're dieting, they just keep coming off from the meals after I train.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Has he given a reason as to why that is at all? Or?
So I obviously asked him, I was like, why are we doing it like this? Like, explain what I just explained to you lot on how I've always done it, and how my thinking behind why you would pull them from other places rather than post-workout. And I mean, it sounds kind of like a bit broy, but it was just like, he was just like, your recovery will be fine. Like, you won't lose any muscle. And he wants to prioritize my training and make sure that I'm training hard. And I guess when I look at it now, it might be from an output standpoint. He might not want me to get lazy through sessions. He might not want me to slack off through sessions. But I guess because we are still new working together, this is something that he has to kind of have faith in his own methods and try with me. Because in my head, I'm like, you could put me on 0 carbs and 0 fat, and I'll still train as hard as I ever can. Like, that's what I know that I can do. But then he can't just have faith in me saying that, I guess. So I have to kind of get to it. Do you know what I mean? Because I guess I'm a coach. I work with a lot of people, and you know that there's some people that just rely on food, where they're like, they start really getting worried if they're not eating so much food, or I was really weak today because I didn't eat. Because you dropped those carbs from meal 1 or whatever. And I'm like, that's not the reason you're weak. You're weak because you went into that session with that mindset, and you didn't go in there attacking it and not thinking about the food. You thought that food's gone down, so now I'm going to be weak. So you were weak.
Absolutely. Makes such a big difference.
Yeah, definitely. So so what he said was he wanted to prioritize my training, and that the recovery would be fine. And whenever we feel like we're going to get too flat or anything, then he's just going to refeed me on the days that he feels like he wants to. So far, so good. I mean, I'm one of those guys as well that, because I have a level of knowledge myself, it's hard to kind of take things sometimes. So I would never not do what my coach does, but I will second guess it, and I will question it, and I will be like, and then I'll also speak to other people that I do trust and rely on also. So like, when he started doing the HIIT, I was like, Jordan, what do you think? Like, this HIIT, what do you think? And he was like, I think you'll be fine. He was like, I think the benefits that you're going to get from doing HIIT at this stage is only going to benefit your training, because you're going to be fitter, which means you're going to be able to train harder, and you're going to be able to maximize all your working sets. You're not going to gas out on anything, and you're going to be able to give it more. And I was like, so sometimes you just need that little bit of assurance, and you're like, okay, stop panicking, like, it's okay. Just because Jordan didn't do it that way, yet when I put it to Jordan, he was like, no, that's fine, like, there's nothing wrong with that. And again, I spoke to Callum, the muscle mentors, as well about the food. Because me and Callum are quite close. I was like, I didn't actually say to him, "Oh, my food's gone down from here, so what do you think?" It was just like a question I asked him in a conversation. I was like, "What do you think to? Where would you prioritize carbs in a diet?" And he said to me, "Pre-workout." And I was like, "Okay." So then now that's two people that are prioritizing it pre and not post. So maybe maybe the way that Jordan did it with me isn't the only way, which obviously it isn't, but you get into that way of thinking that's the only way. And because you rationalize it as, okay, I need to have those carbs post-workout to recover, and because I'm in a deficit and everything else, then you start thinking like that. And then after that, Callum was like, at the end of the day, mate, it doesn't even matter. Like when you're in a diet, you're in a diet. So those carbs anywhere, it literally doesn't matter. He's like, just get them in and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I guess it's more so just preference, isn't it? So you can put them where you want, I guess. As long as you are in a deficit and you're working hard, then you're going to be okay.
Yeah. And I think that really, really does show the value of having the right people around you that you can talk to.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, having a coach, obviously, but also having these second eyes when
we found like similar types of stuff when you prepped, like in regards to just, the training harder thing, even when food was down. We definitely understand that whole psychological side of things. We understand kind of the idea of, obviously, with Ben kind of, having a lot of knowledge, and then, we kind of almost discussed with each other kind of like what we do instead of kind of any one person sort of making decisions. And
it's valuable. And how would you say, because obviously now you're taking a slightly different approach, as you've said, how would you say that's reflected upon how you now work with your own clients as well? Has things changed on that front, or?
Not yet. No, I mean, I feel like that's something that I see quite a lot in on social media, I guess, is when people get with a new coach, then they instantly start just making all their clients do that, and it's so common to see. And I'm like,
new trend every week.
I've never agreed with anything more in my life. That's exactly what I always say that all the time.
I literally haven't done anything that I'm doing with anyone yet. So, and I think it's a case of I need to get through this prep, and I need to see what happens and what I look like on stage and everything else. Like, it's all well and good now when I'm carrying a bit of body fat and stuff, but we need to see how we come in and what I retain and what my body weight is in comparison to what it was last time. And then until you've kind of proved the method, you can't just then give it out willy-nilly and expect it to work well with everyone else. Like, I know what my methods were and how they are successful, so I'm going to continue with those, and then maybe bring something in from here, from Hyacinth stuff, if I feel like they're going to benefit the client. So it's just something that we've got to kind of give a little bit more time to, I guess. But it will never, ever be just, okay, now everybody's doing pro splits and everybody's doing higher volume, and I'm going to take all the carbs from everyone's post-workout meal.
I think that does bring up a good point, actually, on now that you have experienced this. However, even if not kind of, I definitely agree with not kind of immediately kind of putting all these new protocols in for clients. Now that you are kind of starting to ease into this, and again, sort of remains to be seen in the end product how well it truly works, do you have kind of your thoughts on sort of training and nutrition sort of changed around what sort of works for perhaps those who are less advanced for yourself versus those who are more advanced? Because, like, for example, some of the stuff we kind of talked about last time with Caitlin when she was on was kind of talking about sort of the idea of a lot of people do just sort of look to what those above them are doing and try and sort of replicate that. And do you now sort of think that, perhaps whereas a lot of people might see you kind of doing these new things like bro splits and higher volume and stuff, have you kind of changed any of your views on training for those who are sort of trying to build from the bottom versus sort of trying to almost sort of refine and make those very particular adjustments to their physique, like yourself, obviously being at a very high level of what you do? Almost kind of the idea of people training to I guess the JP way, for lack of a better phrase, to gain muscle versus then sort of refine the look, if you will.
I think, I mean, I'm very open. I am at the minute. I'm kind of, because I'm at this stage of working with someone else and doing new things and different things, and seeing how I've recovered and how I've managed to still make progress with higher volume and less frequency, I guess, of hitting the same muscle group. I'm now at the point where I'm wondering and thinking about it a little bit more, because there's no doubt about it that doing a upper lower split or a push pull leg split where your frequency is high and your volume is low, and you can keep hitting that muscle group multiple times across a week or a 10-day period, and you don't hammer it enough that you can recover from it and you can go again. There's no doubt, like the way I just explained it is so obvious that that's going to be a successful way of growing. But then you've got to look at it on the way of, how did you all start training? Like, I don't know what your backgrounds are when you first got into the gym, but I started doing a bro split. That was the first thing that I ever did. And that's and that's all anybody did when I first started training, and everybody grew. So it's like, should it be dismissed when you're first starting out? Because it kind of worked for everyone back then. And I think the biggest fundamental is just training hard.
Yeah, I agree.
We said that
really
several times.
putting that effort in, like everything works. Have you watched much from like the Oxygen Gym guys in Kuwait?
Yeah, I've seen some stuff. Yeah,
they train like absolute nutters. Like they'll do a heavy set of leg press for like 10-15 reps, and then they'll go heavier and try and get 10-15 reps, and then they'll do a drop set, and then they'll put weight more back on, and it all in one set, and it's just literally just absolute hammer. And the only thing that's kind of regulated and the same is the intensity that they're bringing to the session. It's how hard everybody's training. So if you can train hard, you're going to change. If you can train truly hard, you're going to change. If you obviously prioritize your recovery and you eat well and you sleep well, you're going to grow. So the only kind of way that we can differentiate and say push pull legs or upper lower or bro split is best to start with is by actually making a beginner do both as a run trial. So you've got one guy doing a bro split and one guy doing a push pull leg split, and see them doing it. Like I haven't seen any actual studies like that yet where they've been kind of compared onto that kind of scientific level. So I don't know. It would be very hard because you'd have to match. You'd have to have two people that train super hard, and there'll be days where one won't train as hard as the other or everything else. So it'd be hard. But I genuinely do feel like it's too hard to rule one out and say a beginner shouldn't do that.
Yeah, for sure.
I do genuinely feel, like I just said, that if you can hit something with more frequency and a bit lower volume, then you are 100% going to grow. But again, like I said, who's to say they won't grow doing a
definitely.
I mean, we kind of touched on this in our fundamentals of training episode that we did, and we said, you know, we said the exact same thing. Kind of the literature doesn't really draw many conclusions when it comes to training frequency. And the only thing that we can think in terms of sort of beginners is perhaps kind of the skill elements and movement patterns and how that kind of might impact progression. But in terms of actual, you know, muscle gain and stuff, again, I think it does come more so down to kind of the intensity that someone can bring to the session.
There's some key things to take away, and it's as simple as, like you said, you know, it has been pretty lost recently in the industry of just simply training hard in the first place. That is the fundamental. But then also, like you said, you know, you've got two ways there. Both can absolutely work. So you just got to find what works best for you. And like, there's no right or wrong way. It's just what does work for you. Combine your training hard. And
it's like there's so many opinions, isn't there, nowadays, and so many kind of views on training, and people just get married to one thing, and that's just all they run with. Like it's all over social media, isn't it? So you'll very rarely get a coach that will give one guy a bro split and one guy a push-pull leg split. One guy a super high volume with loads of drop sets and then intensifiers, and then somebody with a very, very, very low volume. Their training's all pretty much going to be on the same kind of pattern because that's their belief and that's their kind of, I guess it's like almost like a religion to a lot of people.
Yeah.
They believe into it. So I'm quite open to it, to be honest, but I do feel like it's a lot easier to, I guess that is the word. It's a lot easier to give somebody a plan with a higher frequency and a lower volume because it kind of just gives you that bit of security that you know they are definitely going to grow if they can hit something a little bit more frequently than a bro split. So maybe as a beginner, I guess it's probably going to be better, but you just don't know, do you?
No, you make a very valid point. How do you find that has kind of has that had any impact in terms of your sort of progression performance-wise? Because obviously coming from kind of a long time with Jordan, obviously, you know, the big thing there is sort of progressive overload and the numbers. Is that still a very kind of prevalent concept in your training? Or are you now looking to sort of other methods to provide the stimulus, so to speak?
It's still very much based on trying to get stronger and trying to improve my lifts. But he also did tell me he didn't want me to logbook. So that was a bit different. Yeah, he said don't logbook. And I feel like that's probably because he didn't want me to just get too caught up in chasing numbers.
Yeah, which makes sense.
I feel like sometimes you can get too caught up in chasing numbers. One, on a basis of you just end up lifting like shit because you're trying to get strong. And then on the second one, that when you do start really getting into the dog end of prep, that you just might not hit those numbers. And that's just no good for your morale or how you feel about yourself when you can see that you're getting weaker. But the other thing is, it's like, for me now, I'm at that level where I don't need a logbook to remember what my big lifts are. I might forget what I'm doing on a cable fly or a tricep pushdown, but I'm never going to forget what I'm doing on an incline dumbbell press or a barbell press or, do you know what I mean, a rack pull or a deadlift or anything like that. That's never going to be out of my head when you're into it and you're really into kind of training and improving. You're not going to forget those big ones. So it's almost like that logbook's ingrained in your head and you just know what you did last time, so you're going to try and beat it the next time.
Yeah, definitely. Because again, you know, it goes back to that idea of intensity. When someone does know how to kind of bring that to the session, you know that you don't have to tell someone to logbook because you know they are going to push themselves to go further every time anyway. So that's pretty interesting. I think another one quickly touch on is perhaps just quickly bring up the Nathan thing, because I think that's a pretty cool one. So obviously now just coming off the back of a couple of shows with Nathan and doing kind of pretty well in that regard. What kind of went through your mind in terms of obviously being such a high level men's physique athlete yourself? We were just curious if there was anything that kind of immediately jumped out at you when Nathan kind of came to you with sort of his goals and kind of how you perhaps sort of went about his programming, because it's not every day that you hear someone want to go from a bodybuilder to a men's physique athlete, because I think it's fair to say that the improvements that you guys made together were pretty substantial.
Awesome.
And you guys have done a great job with that.
Awesome job.
Thank you. Yeah. No, at first I was like, wow, well, okay. Like I'll never write anybody off. I'll never kind of say that somebody can't do something, because you just don't know until you get them to that point. But at the beginning, when he came to me and he's like hitting bodybuilding shots, and the reason he came to me is like a lot of it was due to how his leg was recovering, and it was like, okay, like do you really want to do this, or is it just because you just want to compete? You know what I mean? Like, do you just want to compete? But as we got into it a little bit more, it's quite evident that he does actually like the class, and he takes a lot from it. He follows the big guys, the pros and stuff, and he aspires to be successful within the class. So at the beginning, I was a little bit like, oh shit, okay, I don't know, but not to the point that it made me second guess wanting to get in there. So it was almost just like, not sure, because I've always known Nathan as being a very kind of hardcore bodybuilder. Do you know what I mean? Like that's what.
Yeah.
If you were going to pick someone to do men's physique, you wouldn't have picked Nathan. You know what I mean? It was just like, yeah. And I spoke to Jamie Johal as well before I helped him, because I know Nathan worked with him for a bit. So I was like, oh, what's he like and everything else? And he was like, yeah, he's sound like that. But the way that when Jamie was helping him, it was in an off season. So it was completely kind of different.
Yeah.
He was trying to make Nathan eat a lot of fucking food, and Nathan doesn't. I don't think Nathan really likes pushing food. So
yeah,
it was like, yeah. So it was like, didn't really give me much of a kind of grasp on how things would go. So it was just like, okay, let's just see what happens. So I wanted to just improve him at first, and I wanted to get his blood work in a good place before we push for prep. So I'm not sure that anyone had ever even done that with him either. Kind of made a bit more of an emphasis on trying to get him healthy before he went with it. Because Nathan's been doing it. Like, I didn't even know, but I remember him saying on your podcast that he's 2009 his first show.
Yeah,
I think
something like that.
Yeah.
Years ago.
Yeah.
I didn't even bodybuild then. I think I just went to the gym every now and again. It was like, you know what I mean? I was a kid, and like he's been doing it for that long that people didn't even know what bloods were there.
Yeah.
Literally not even a thing. Obviously, Nathan's moved on with the times, and he obviously knew by the time that he was working with me, but I don't think it was ever something that people prioritized with him, whoever he'd worked with, or himself just doing his own thing. So it was kind of, that was the first thing, was I just wanted to get his blood in a good place and just get him looking better and get him training like a bit more like a men's physique athlete. So it was more so like, I'm not saying that there's specific men's physique training, but we like highlighted the areas that men's physique athletes should have in kind of a little bit more prominent than others, I guess. So just to accentuate his taper and make his kind of delts and arms pop a little bit more, and more width to his back and stuff like that. So because for me, obviously, just watching Nathan over the years and seeing him being a bodybuilder, you just see those kind of front on shots, and he was a little bit straight up and down. So we had to kind of pose him. I met him on Boxing Day in December, and we went through some poses post workout, and like that was the day where I was like, wow, okay, he's got a long way to go here. Really got to kind of sharpen his posing up and everything else. But you don't know, like, it's so hard to see a physique, and I guess even more so a men's physique, when they're in their off season.
Yeah.
Because you hit that kind of men's physique pose or a side shot or something, and it just looks nothing like it looks when you peel.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you can't really see the true kind of potential. What's going on there? Just come off. There you go. Yeah. So I was like, right, okay, this is gonna be interesting. So we started working, and we started kind of bringing him in for the first qualifier, which was the Kingdom Classic, and it just kept getting put back. Do you remember?
Yeah.
I think it got put back like 5 weeks, and then it got put back another 2 or 3 weeks or whatever. So in hindsight, that was a good thing for us, because it just gave us more time to refine him and get him really, really dry, and we weren't worrying or trying to push towards or hurry towards the day at all. It was just a really easy prep towards the end. He was just doing no cardio. He was refeeding on burgers like every day, every other day. And then, I started to then increase his food rather than just feeding him up all the time, because he was just dropping fast. So we were just refeeding, dropping cardio, dropped it out. And then he just cruised in, and we did a couple of Skype calls on some posing stuff. And and then the rest is history, I guess. He got on stage at the Kingdom Classic, and I would never really don't want to talk bad about the federation or whatever, but the guy that won it just shouldn't have beat him, which is a bit frustrating, because then he went and beat him again this weekend gone, the same guy. So he wasn't happy after that show. He was really pissed off, and it was the Ryan Terry Classic the day after. And he was like, I want to do it. And the judge, one of the judges actually messaged me and was like, he was too big for this qualifier. So then we had like 24 hours to get him leaner or smaller, I guess, because he was peeled. He was the most conditioned there. He was just nice, but he brought a good look. So then we had to really kind of suck him down overnight. So we did some bits and got him down a little bit and got him even harder and even drier. And and then he won the next day, which really put him on a high. And then he wanted to do the Ben Weider. And then even then, as he was going into the Ben Weider, I was like, well, this is going to be like another level of competition now. This is a pro qualifier. And this is where they've said that his look at the Kingdom Classic would be suited to. So we kind of knew what we were going for. And then I think just that 2 weeks in between that show to this show, he just looked even better. And we changed his carb up a little bit. We added in like an extra couple of 100 grams of carbs, but then went less on the day, and he just looked perfect. He looked absolutely perfect. Even Joe Jeffrey, do you know Joe Jeffrey? Yeah, he messaged me after the Ryan Terry Classic, and he was like, mate, he was on. He was like, there was nobody like that. He was like, because he saw him there, he was like, there was nobody as conditioned as him. And I was like, oh, that's good, because obviously I was just looking on live stream. Obviously I've seen the pictures and stuff, but when you're on stage, it's hard to tell, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
When you're watching something like that. But yeah, he even surprised me, to be honest, because he should have won his class at the Ben Weider. He should have won. Like, he comes second, but he should have won his class. The kid, no offense to him, but he didn't have anywhere near as much muscle. He didn't have anything. Like Nathan smoked everybody that day, and I'm a bit upset for him, because that would have been a wicked achievement. It meant coming from bodybuilding to being in an overall and fighting for your pro cards. Crazy. He's on now, so he knows where he can be and what he's capable of.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason I wanted to bring that up was more so to kind of get the sort of coach's point of view and kind of see some of the things that are running through your mind.
Interesting.
And I think that actually runs things very nicely into kind of your competition plans and where you sort of see the class heading, because sort of as you mentioned, the judging has been questionable, and I do completely agree, to be honest, because I haven't been into really competitive bodybuilding for too long, and really last year was the only time I really started paying attention to sort of shows and two bros and stuff. And one thing that interested me was sort of how the judging for each show was kind of really worlds apart, and the looks that they were going for was so drastically different, and kind of again sort of reflected that this year looking at kind of Nathan and the men's physique guys. So I'm curious how that makes you feel about kind of how you kind of compare and sort of the look that you're bringing this time, because again, I know that obviously in your shoes it's about kind of working relentlessly as hard as you can towards the goal, but I'm curious how you think your look at the moment sort of, do you think it matches up to what they might be looking for? Because I know you're like 11 weeks out now. And I know on the previous podcast that you did with Hannah, I noticed that you mentioned that you don't actually sort of even ask for sort of judges' feedback, because it's just about just improving the look and working harder, which was really cool to hear. But now kind of looking at the judging this year, how do you feel your look kind of lines up in regards to what they're looking for, and do you think that could sort of be your time this year?
So I think that on the day of the Ben Weider show, that they pretty much got everything right, apart from Nathan's class. It's a frustrating thing. Like, if you look at all the winners, they were all good. The overall winner definitely should have won it. The tall class winner, Mitch, he was there. He was really good. All the other guys, I feel like they kind of deserved their class wins, and it was the only one that didn't was Nathan's, and that was the biggest travesty of the day, in my opinion. So I'm not kind of lost in terms of how I feel about their judging, and I'm not worrying at all. But the other thing is, I don't plan on competing in the UK this year. So
fair. I was about to ask what show you're doing, because I know you're like 11 weeks out now. So
yeah, so the show I'm looking at doing is Portugal. So
Okay.
it will probably be different judges anyway. So I'm not really, and I wasn't happy with how I was judged last year in the UK. So I was like, oh,
Yeah.
We felt that was quite a travesty.
Yeah, there was a bit. I was a bit bitter about this show that went on. The Ben Weeder, when I was watching, I was like, I should have fucking won this last year."
Right.
So yeah, it was a little bit like, I don't know whether I want to be up against, judged by those same judges again when I've had a bit of a raw deal before, because you just get that bitter taste in your mouth where you don't really know how it's going to go. So yeah, I might just stay away this year. So we'll see.
No, that's
I genuinely feel like I would have been competitive. You have to believe in yourself when it comes to these things. Definitely. And I think if I was there, I would have won my class. I think I would have been in that overall. I don't know if I'd have beat the overall winner. See, I had a crazy physique. I feel like I'm a really, really big fan of his physique, to be honest. He had some crazy thick arms and delts and chest. He looked very kind of pro-like. He stood out for me. So I'm not saying I was better than him, but I feel like I would have competed and done okay. So you just
for sure.
I'd have been up there.
Yeah, cool. I agree. Definitely would have been. And I very much like that honesty as well. Of like, because you sound like you're very fair with where you think you're at, in terms of like you can recognize that. And to be honest, and I do think you have a pro-worthy physique, and I'm sure a lot of people agree. But again, it's good that you are very honest with yourself and say, I'm competitive, but I'm not guaranteed to win. And that's a good attitude, because it just knows when you train, when you're going through prep, you just have to give it your all, because you're not guaranteed anything.
That's so true. I mean, I feel like I am quite a realist, and I wouldn't say I am. I lack confidence, but I'm very completely on the other side of overconfidence. So I will just. And I said this on Hannah's podcast as well. It's one of those. This bodybuilding game. It's like you can't ever guarantee that you're going to win. You might be the best there by far, and you might not win.
Yeah,
it's literally that. That is how it is. When people say, "Oh, the best guy won," or "You just got beat fair and square," that's not always the case when it comes to this. It's not like sport, actual sport. It's not like competitive sport. It's not like football. It's not like a sprint. It's not like a race. It's not skill based. It's 6 people who sit there and decide what they like to see.
You
know what I mean? And now this isn't me saying anything negative towards those judges as people, but who are they? Like, why are they educated enough to make that decision? Do you know what I mean? Like, I know some of those judges personally, and they're not like had a huge competitive background. They're not anything that would make you think, he knows bodybuilding. Do you know what I mean? It's like sometimes they're just plucking people out from here, there, and everywhere. They're mates, or someone that owns a gym, or someone that's done a couple of shows and likes bodybuilding, or is a fan of bodybuilding. They even do like requests, like, do you want to be a judge? Do you want to come and shadow judge? Like, anyone can do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you can't just take that opinion of whatever happens on that day, and if you didn't win, that's you, that you're no good, or you will never turn pro, or you will never win a show. Like, you know what I mean? In 2018, I did the Amateur Olympia, and I was like second call out. I came last, like in that call out. I think I was 11th or 12th. 1 year later, I won. I did 4 shows in 1 month, and won 2 and came 3rd and 4th in the other pro qualifiers in Iceland, Germany, Amsterdam, and Russia. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's such a crazy sport. Like, and I'm real enough to say that I could go and compete in 11 weeks and get a second call out again. I don't know. That could happen. You know what I mean? I hope it absolutely don't, but.
No, it all makes a lot of sense, and it has been really cool to kind of watch you kind of relentlessly go at it, because I know that's sort of probably what you're kind of most known for now, kind of.
Yeah.
I guess a way to even put it would be sometimes even sort of potentially sort of cheated out of that pro card and just continuing to kind of do. It has been awesome to watch. I think that kind of wraps things up quite nicely with sort of all the training, coaching, competing side of things.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
yeah, we've got a few questions, and one of them I'm sure you'll quite like, because you are known for being quite honest and stuff. So I guess kind of leading into, I guess, really some of the stuff that we even sort of said earlier about sort of the coaches setting trends for clients and stuff. What do you feel is sort of the main reason, I guess, for someone asked why do you think misinformation is sort of so prevalent in this industry? But I guess a better way to maybe put it, sort of, what's the main reason you feel that it's kind of quite prevalent? Because as we kind of touched on earlier, I guess there's a multitude of ways to sort of go about it. And as we even touched on, there's many ways to skin a cat, really. So
yeah, definitely. So so what do I think is the biggest reason for misinformation? Is that what you said? What is the book?
Yeah, why do you think misinformation is sort of so prevalent?
I genuinely feel like it's that whole trend thing. It's that whole social media. People get hold of something. Someone with a big following or a big voice will start shouting about something, and then that's it. It's just the tone is then set, and then everybody feels like that's the only way that they can do things.
Yeah.
So I guess I guess it's not really fair to say that's misinformation, because it's not the fact that it's wrong. It's just not the only way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
as you said earlier, it almost becomes like a religion for some people, and they just can't grasp anything else.
I mean, I'm talking about the way the things that I'm kind of talking about. A lot of it has come from like my peers and my friends and people that are on the same kind of sponsorship team as me, and the people that I respect. So I'm not like discrediting them or bad mouthing them, but it's like the way like how an exercise is glorified and then it has to be done and then it will change. But there'll be a slight variation to it, and then that's the next one that everybody's doing. And it's like it was an RDL, and then it was a stiff leg deadlift, and then it was a deficit stiff leg deadlift, and now it's gone back to an RDL, and now, do you know what I mean? Like a banded RDL.
People the same way, like agree.
Yeah, and it's like and I don't even think it's like completely meant to have been portrayed as the only kind of big best exercise, but it's like Jordan will do it because he loves it and he favors it and he feels the benefits from it.
Exactly.
He'll say this is the best exercise for posterior chain development, and that's his point of view. And then everybody just takes it and runs away with it.
Yeah.
If Jordan coaches you, he won't make you do that exercise.
Yeah.
Probably put it in your plan, but then if you don't like it or you don't get on with it, which I can't do stuff like that at the minute because I've got like a glute impingement. Whenever I do a heavy hip hinge, I get a real sharp pain at my right glute. I can't do stuff like that. So if you can't do it or you don't like to do it, he won't make you do it. It's not like, okay, now you're just gonna have a shit back because you can't do that.
Of course, yeah.
It doesn't work like that. It's just everybody puts out what they put out in terms of based on what they like. It's like when you write a client's plans, you write, if they don't specifically say they don't want certain foods in their diet or they do want certain foods in their diet, you're going to write them plans with the foods that you like to eat. Because it's just a natural way of doing things. Because you're like, okay, I like that. That's nice. I think that's a good nutritious food source. I enjoy that food source, and it just ends up being on the plan. Do you know what I mean? You don't think if you eat 3 meals of chicken and rice, 1 meal of beef and potato, 1 egg white and whole egg meal with avocado in the morning and 2 slices of toast, you then don't just go, okay, I'm going to give him prawns for meal 1 and I'm going to give him mussels for meal 6. You don't just start making these like different adding different food groups in. you just do what you kind of do because that's what you enjoy doing. And you're at the end of the day, that's your personal touch and your personal approach. And you're being employed to kind of give, I guess, a part of that across. They see what they like what they see, and they're asking for that. So I think it's kind of the misinformation's come across in a way that hasn't kind of meant to have been like that. I feel like it's not the first person that does it; it's everybody else.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point.
That gets hold of it after.
Yeah, more so misapplication than misinformation.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree. Yeah,
that's a good one. That's a good one.
Cool. Should we get into the funnier questions?
Well, there was one more that I actually still wanted to ask HAIDER. So obviously you're in Dubai now. I know I listened to the podcast that you did with Hannah. I know you obviously mentioned that your kids are starting school in Dubai now, and obviously you're going to be out there for the foreseeable. I found it very interesting, sort of what you had to say about sort of the kids being kids thing, and going out there, a lot for sort of the sake of the family and stuff. But one thing that I almost wondered was how do you kind of balance the idea of going out there being good for the family and having that sort of sense of freedom for your kids, versus just one that sort of popped into my head as a kid who moved around a lot, almost potentially sort of the idea of impermanence, obviously knowing that potentially when sort of COVID's over, might be coming back to the UK. How do you sort of balance the feeling of that this is good for them in the idea that it's free and they might enjoy it, but then also that in a couple of years it might sort of be gone again. Does that ever kind of come into your mind?
Most definitely. We had this conversation yesterday, me and my wife actually, about talking, because Jordan, actually, I was talking to Jordan yesterday and he said, what are your plans for living and everything else for this year? Because obviously he's my main sponsor. So that was kind of something that he asked. And I said, well, we'll be here for this year, most definitely, because I've got the contract for the year on the apartment. My son's at school, so we want him to at least finish his schooling here for the year. And then I said, it just depends on what the world situation is like then, I guess. And then my wife was like, I don't think, she said, I can't see myself moving back yet next year. And I was like, okay, is that what you think? She was like, yeah. And I was like, all right, okay. And on the same hand, my son loved the school so much that when he came back, he was like, oh, please don't take me out of this school.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, fuck, that's going to be difficult. So, but the plan was never to not go back, and the plan was never to go back.
Yeah.
It was just like, we're here now because it's a better place to be. So let's just live here and let's just see how it goes. Yeah. And like you just said, like, I don't know what it was like for you moving around and stuff as a kid, and how, or if it affected you at all in a negative way. But
pros and cons.
Yeah, like I really don't want it to affect him. So if I feel like he is really happy, and he's not old enough to kind of have a really strong decision on things, but I think after this year, when he turns 8 and stuff, you can kind of ask him, like, do you want to stay here? Is this where you want to stay at school? Because it will be fresh enough for him to remember what it was like in school in the UK. And there's a lot of the UK that we don't have here. That's the only the kind of really only attraction that's making me contemplate moving back eventually is family. Mum, like, I'm trying to get my mum out here now, to be honest. Like, if I could get her out here, it'd be a lot easier to stay here.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of benefits here. I really do enjoy being here, and everybody does. But family's a stronghold, isn't it? And it's something that's going to always make you second guess things and wonder. But I don't want to disrupt his upbringing, man. Definitely not. So, what you tell me? What was the negatives, or what were the positives?
Oh, I think the negatives were certainly that idea of kind of everything almost feeling sort of temporary. Like the relationships that you form, I feel almost sort of never seem quite as strong and solid, because there's always the feeling that eventually it is just inevitably going to sort of go away. Obviously, the main con was just being able to sort of experience things, which I guess is the real perk as you said, especially with the world and the situation that it's in at the moment, allowing your kids to be kids, as you said on Hannah's podcast, giving them that freedom, being able to sort of enjoy themselves and stuff. Obviously, the experience side of things, I guess, more so somewhere like Dubai of all places, really cool place to be for sure. So yeah, pros and cons to be taken from it for sure. And as you said, I think that the best way to go about it is a little more so spontaneous, see how things are playing out. For sure.
I think it's the only kind of way as well, because like I don't know what your kind of stance is on the whole COVID thing and what your opinions are on it, but there's I'm like bloody, like, I don't know.
I think we're of a very similar opinion to you from what I've heard you say before.
Yeah, good. But I just don't have any faith in what's going on in the UK, and like I feel like they're probably going to push for another lockdown in terms on the basis of the whole vaccine passport and everything else, and they're going to lock you down until you've had it or something on those lines. And it's just like it seems imminent that it's going to come round again, and I don't know, man. It's so crazy because when I'm here, it's like I'm in another world. I'm not in another country. It's like I'm in another world. Yeah. And then I look at Florida and I'm like, they're in another world. Yeah. Texas, they're in another world. And it's like the UK is like, what are you doing? Like, why? It's such a frustrating situation, because we are literally having our rights pulled from us, left, right, and center. And it's just like, well, this is not meant to happen. We grew up thinking, we never expected anything like this to ever happen in our lifetimes, and it's like it actually is happening. It's just mental. Mm-hmm. So it's hard. It's hard to get a grip on. It's like I always say this about things. It's like it's okay if you can understand it. You can accept things when you can understand things. When you can't understand something, when it doesn't make any sense, then how can you get on with it? How can you accept? How can you just be like, okay, yeah, this is what it is.
For sure. Mm-hmm. Well, that brings me on to my last little question: is what's your favorite thing about your career then? Because obviously it encompasses the coaching side of things and the bodybuilding side of things, and now obviously with you being in Dubai and being able to have had some of these experiences, like for example, sort of coaching Nathan. I'm assuming you obviously saw his post yesterday about kind of coming out of rock bottom. Is it possible to pinpoint a favorite part of your career, whether it be kind of the freedom of, coaching, to be able to go somewhere like Dubai kind of as you wanted, and, be able to sort of take your family with you and stuff? Is it sort of, being able to really see people progress? I mean, obviously it's all very, very rewarding, but kind of with everything that's going on at the moment, is it possible to sort of pinpoint the what's really the best bit about it?
I think because I've done it for so long, the whole moving around thing's always been something that I've been able to do. Right. Mm. So that will always have a very big kind of shine and positive impact on myself and the reason why I do what I do. But as cheesy as it is helping people. Like when I get messages that I read and I'm like, like, is that really the impact that I'm having on this guy's life? Like, that is just amazing. Like, I never thought that I would ever be able to touch people in the way that I have, just by giving them some direction and giving them something to follow and making them feel better. It's just unreal. I really, really do think that there's nothing that can give me a job satisfaction like I'm getting.
Very much.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, good answer.
You want to ask about movies and stuff? Or?
Yeah. Okay. We're going to ask you probably the hardest question yet.
That's it. I tried personally not to rehearse this.
Okay, so you knew where we were going. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So the question we've almost asking everyone now is, what are your top 5 movies?
Oh, well, we just go for 3 with guests.
Oh, we'll go
if you've got honourable mentions, you don't want to give 5, then go for it.
What are your top 3? Maybe 5.
Okay. Movies. Top 3. Okay, I think this one's probably going to be a little bit of a. It's a bit sad, but The Pursuit of Happiness is definitely going to be one of the top 3. that was like probably one of the first films that really made me like well up a little bit. That was like a sad film that touched me quite a bit. Let me think. It's got to be another. These are the like, hardest questions ever, aren't they?
No, yeah, it really puts you on the spot.
Literally the hardest question. I have to say that when the first Avengers came out, that was like my favorite film for a very long time, and then I ended up being a bit of a fan after that. So I guess that deserves a mention. And what else? I know I'm going to miss. I know that there's going to be a film that I think.
Always happens. That always happens, indeed.
Yeah. It's tough. This is so tough. This is like the last one. I've got to make it count. So many.
You're quite a film person, yeah.
Yeah, I do. I love watching a good film. You know what? I'm not gonna give you one. I just can't pick one. I'm gonna have to say. I'm just gonna say a film that I watched not long ago that I thought was really good. Actually, Greenland. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen that.
Gerard Butler.
Is it? Yeah, it's the new end of the world sort of style film.
Yeah, it's a bit like COVID like. It's like,
I've heard good things about it. I haven't watched it though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a decent film. It's a good film. But it's so like in terms of films that I really love, it's like films. Now I said Gerard Butler, it kind of makes me think. So I do love those kind of films, like the law-abiding citizen kind of films, and there's obviously like Man on Fire. That's one of my all-time favorite films, Denzel Washington. And then probably, actually, yeah, this is going to be in my top three, to be fair. Troy, absolutely love that film. Probably about 100 times. It's one of those films that I could just always put on.
Yeah.
Never get sick of watching it, no matter what.
Yeah. I feel like that's a weird way to describe it. I feel like that's such a Sunday afternoon film.
Yeah. You don't have to really like watch it.
Yeah.
You can just, it's always on.
Exactly.
I'll take that as a top three, yeah.
Decent answers. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Only your boys. What are yours?
Oh God, amazing.
We mentioned it. We mentioned this one on the last one that we did. The last one we just did a little update because obviously we had two guests on prior, and now obviously started getting the question thrown to us. Then, what are your favorite films? Yeah, I've probably already forgotten what I said on the last one, but I think my favorite of all time, just more so for the kind of the nostalgia side of things. I guess probably for a similar reason that you will have said, the Avengers, the very first Star Wars Episode 4.
Okay.
More so for kind of the nostalgia and growing up and stuff. And to be fair, I think in terms of kind of its direction and stuff for the time, it was also pretty good. Number two, it's a cheesy one, but I just enjoy it. It's probably my kind of Sunday afternoon film, the one you can always just sort of put on and have a good time. Point Break with Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze from the 1991 version, obviously.
Is that the surfing?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I just always found that one really, really fun. I don't know why. And then my third one, I think probably Wolf of Wall Street. Just the classic, pretty funny. Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's so many like that could just break that top five.
Tough question. I can't remember what I said.
I can't remember what you said.
I know what it is now. Now you're on the spot. It's tough.
I know we definitely had a discussion between The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises.
I think you put that one fourth though. I remember that one you put fourth because I told you there was no way to because I remember arguing.
I can't even slightly remember what I said. What did I say?
I think you might have put Shutter Island first.
Oh, Shutter Island's definitely up there.
Quality. I was going to say that.
Shutter Island is definitely up there. It's one of my favorite films of all time. Because I was trying to think. I know a lot of Leo films are definitely up there. Shutter Island. Did I put The Conjuring within my top three?
I think that might have been second. You know,
I think, the second Conjuring, because I absolutely love a horror film. Yeah. And then third,
you either went for enemy, I think it might have
No,
been.
that was an honorable mention.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. I don't know then. I don't know.
Third. What did I say? I didn't say anything. I remember I didn't say Marvel films because I said they need to be counted as together.
Need to be together, yeah.
Oh my god.
I guess you can throw it back to Hayder now, so you're not getting the third one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch that because I can't actually remember what I said at all.
Yeah,
But
Jesus.
The hardest question ever.
Good, yeah, no, decent list on your part, Hayder.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
that's a pretty good one. I think we've been rolling for a bit over an hour now, so that's actually probably not a bad time to sort of wrap it up. Yeah. Well, I think that covered quite a lot, sort of, you know, the training side of things and sort of the new approach, and you know, not getting sort of too zealous on kind of the way one person does things for sure. Sort of your points of view and coaching. Yeah, we appreciate all that massively. That was a really good
thank
for
you.
us. So thank you so much.
Thank you
very, very much.
It's been great to chat to you guys and give my opinion on things, and I hope people get something from it and see that it's not all so rigid and you don't have to do something a certain way. So.
I definitely think they'll take something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, nice one. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Thank you again very much.
Next one. Thanks, Hayder.
Hey everyone, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to like the video, leave a comment and subscribe for more.
If you enjoyed that episode, be sure to check out the latest Fitbit here and the latest podcast here. Thanks for watching, guys and girls.